have Rashma Chamberlain, who is the co-founder and chief brand officer and digital officer of Somersault, which is an amazing, amazing swimwear brand that she's going to tell you all about shortly. And we're going to be talking about digital brand marketing and digital branding and all of the above. Just to give you guys a heads up, this is a portion where you are going to be actively playing with your Chromebooks. And so, again, wake them up. They are touch screen. Make sure you're playing with them. These are not, they're precious, but we want you to use them the way that you would absolutely be using all of your products in home. So get ready. We're going to give you a lot of instruction, and you're going to get a sense of how all of it works. All right? Cool. Rashma.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here and so happy to see this amazing room of all you women. A little bit of my backstory. I ran a digital strategy agency called We Are January for 7 years. We worked with a lot of direct-to-consumer brands, if you're familiar with brands like Mgemi, Rockets of Awesome, and a few other fun things like that. So really at the forefront of what's happening in digital commerce. But then I decided to quit it all, shut it down, and start a startup. We create swimwear for women like all of us who like to dive into adventure and enjoy ourselves. It's really the opposite of over-sexualized swimwear. It's swimwear for us to have fun. Whenever we're in swimwear, we're dipping our toes in the sand, jumping in the pool, and we really wanted the shopping experience to be as joyful as the things we do in our swimwear. So that's kind of what we do. So that's there. It's also made out of all recycled materials, which was really important to me and a core brand value. Lisa spoke about being true to yourself. I drive an electric car. I try my best. I'm not perfect by any means, but I know that consumerism isn't going anywhere. We're all here building brands, and I felt like it was something that I was called to do, to create a brand that working towards being sustainable. We make our stuff out of recycled materials. Our packaging is reusable. Our collateral is 100% recycled paper. So I'm trying my little way to create a conscious brand that provides an incredible product for incredible women who I see in this room. Okay, amazing. So a little bit about direct-to-consumer. So does anyone know what that term means in this room? Right? We all shop from brands like Glossier, Allbirds, Away Travel. Direct-to-consumer really means we don't have brick and mortar to start. We really start online. We're truly born online. And we have that one-on-one communication with our customer. And that's really the future of retail. So we really believe that the intersection of business strategy and strong brand is where the magic happens. So a lot of the times, people have a great company idea. They have their business down pat. They might know where they're getting something. They might know their suppliers. They might know their business model. And then what happens is in execution, it tends to fall down a little bit. On the other hand, you have people who really know their brand, right? They know what they're about. They know what they want to communicate. They know their look and feel. But sometimes the business model isn't that sound. So really, when I started my agency, it was really based on this intersection of business strategy and design thinking, where building the brand is part of the business model. It's not the icing on the cake. It's truly an ingredient. So when all of you are thinking of starting a business, or you already started your business, don't think about what it looks like as being the icing on the cake. Think about it as being an ingredient, because that's how you stand out. Lisa spoke about standing out, staying true to who you are, and the way your brand looks and feels is a way in which you can stand out, and a way in which you can really connect to your customer. Awesome. So it's really important to kind of communicate the essential core of your business, understand and articulate your business goals, vision, and purpose, create a cultural movement, and I think we're seeing synergies from what Lisa shared. Stand for something, create a movement, and translate it across all platforms. So it's very easy to say, okay, I've made this now. I hope people are going to come by it. They're not going to. You've created it. How do you disseminate that and have that cohesive tone and voice across every touch point? And that means sometimes how you physically present yourself, what your website looks like, what your Instagram looks like, the tone and voice in your emails. I recently had my first board meeting. We raised a large round and we're excited to continue. And everyone was in suits. And I was like, you know what? I'm just not that kind of person. So I went in jeans, and that that was true to who I was. So even on the most fundamental level, just being true to who you are is so important in brand building. Okay, so it's really important to clearly define your problem when you're creating something. We always talk about building brands and building companies, but the ones that really succeed are solving a true problem in the space. So when we launched Somersault, I really felt that there was a really true white space in the market where there was no swimwear brand where you could get designer quality for less, and a brand that was not over-sexualized. It was really for women like us. And so I clearly defined that problem. This is what we're trying to solve. And then I addressed that through everything that we did. Brand colors, photography, the tone of voice, everything kept going back to defining that problem and addressing it. The next is really clearly defining your audience. Lisa, I keep going back to you, but you said something about, not everyone is going to love it, and that's okay. You really need to own your audience. You really need to understand them. You really need to connect with them, and it's okay. Some people are going to say, hey, you know what? I don't like what you're doing, and that's okay. You really, if you know what you're doing and you know what you stand for, that's just perfect. Okay, this is fun. So step outside the normal comparison. So when you're building a brand, I keep going back to Somersault because that's what I live, breathe, and eat right now completely. It would be very easy for me to say, okay, I'm building a swimwear brand. Let me look at all the other swimwear brands out there. Yes, that's step one. But step two is saying, okay, how can I look beyond swimwear and see how other companies are changing their particular space? That's what I call apples to oranges comparison, where swimwear to swimwear is apples to apples. Swimwear to shoes, swimwear to Casper mattresses, swimwear to Warby Parker sunglasses. That's kind of stepping out and becoming apples to oranges comparison. So there's so much to learn. I've met so many brand builders and entrepreneurs who have blinkers on, and they're just looking at, okay, what is that other swimwear company doing? They're my competition. They're not your competition. You're creating your own lane, and you want to really, really kind of excel in that lane and change an industry. And if you want to do that, you have to take those blinders off and look beyond and look at defining in apples to oranges. The next piece is really defining what I say apples to aliens, which I know sounds so weird and crazy and extraterrestrial, but it's really about what is that little thing that makes you so special? What is your alien? Is your alien that you are the first company in swimwear to ever showcase women of color very prominently in your social media? We are, absolutely. And that's something I am so proud of. I'm an immigrant and I grew up in India, and for me that's important. I never saw myself represented. And it's not easy. When I go to the modeling agencies, I have to ask for it, and it's harder, and you have to continue to persist. So know your alien. What is that thing that really defines you and that makes you truly different? Going back to knowing who you are and who you are not. Sometimes we really know who we are. I know that I am Indian. I know that I'm 32. I know that I live between St. Louis and New York. But sometimes it's hard to put a finger on knowing what you are not. And sometimes that's even more important than knowing who you are, because that allows you to focus on what you want to build and not be distracted by everything else. Really know that we are not a company that is not inclusive. We are not a swimwear company where we're going to show perfect size 0 blonde models on a beach. We are a company that shows those women, because those women are also real women, and shows women in diverse body types. We are a company who's striving to be more inclusive every day. And then identifying your core brand pillars. So I'll go back to that. That's so important. Sometimes you're like, oh my God, I'm all these things, I'm this, I'm that, I'm this. Boil it down to 3 brand pillars. If someone said to you, tell me quickly about your brand. This happened to me just walking up. I was with Allie Wyatt, who's, I think, the president of Girlboss. I think that's her official title. She said, oh, you have to meet someone. Give them a 30-second pitch about what Somersault is about. And I stopped for a second. I was like, okay, those are my 3 brand values, where designer quality for $95. Our swimwear has functionality baked into the garment. It's 5 times stronger. It has 4 times the compression. It has UPF 50. And guess what? It's made out of recycled materials and a direct-to-consumer. So quickly, those 3 things came right out because I knew them. So really know what those 3 core brand pillars or principles are. one thing that people forget is when you're branding, everyone thinks about the beautiful visuals, right? You're always thinking about, like Girlboss does such an incredible job of the visuals and the tone. You think about the bright colors, the beautiful fonts, the beautiful photography. But a really incredible place to kind of showcase who you are is in your brand tone. How do you speak to your customer? We speak to our customer like she's our best friend. We are the brand that you don't mind taking into the changing room with you and saying, how does this swimsuit look? Like, do my boobs look good in this? That's the brand we're trying to build, as opposed to the brand that you feel uncomfortable approaching. And you will be amazed. We get customer service photos of themselves in their swimsuits in a very intimate setting like their bedroom. What do you think? Should I get the other color? Oh, I love this. Should I get another one? And we love hearing that. So using things like we say on our bags, the next best thing to skinny dipping is somersault, right? So using things and tones like that really help bring it together. And of course, you cannot underplay the importance of a visual brand. When we created Somersault, it's good to go to the next slide, perfect. When we created Somersault, I really thought about what we wanted the brand to be like. When interacting with the brand, I wanted to feel like we were standing in the sun. That feeling when winter is getting over and you stand in the sun and you just feel that warmth. We wanted every interaction with the brand to feel like that warmth. So our bags are bright yellow. The backgrounds of our photos are yellow. The tone of voice, we say hello sunshine often. We talk to you in a way that feels warm and friendly, like a giant hug. And that's what we wanted to create for our brand. And that's what we see established visually. And there's so many ways in which you do that. You can do that through color. You can do that through typography. You can do that through photography. You can do that through your tone of voice. And when all of those things work in complete synergy with each other, that's when you create a brand people can't stop talking about and they want to be part of. We'll do a quick exercise where I talk about how you can condense down that mood. This is kind of a fun mood board that we had done for another brand. So we'll dive into the group activity. Okay. So the way I like to start usually is, of course, you know what you're building, you know what you're doing, you've maybe gone through your brand pillars, you've kind of decided on your business model. You're now starting to build what that brand tone and mood feels like. So when we're starting to create that mood board, I always start with a sentence. It might sound kind of crazy. If everyone knows the brand Everlane in this room, maybe, I love that brand. And so sometimes I'll start a mood statement with, if Everlane had a baby with the south of France in the 1950s, right? That's kind of weird. You're like, okay, what does that mean? But that gives you two really interesting points to start from. You can pull photography from Everlane. You can pull some brand pieces of what they're doing. Maybe there are brands like Everlane who are that crisp and clean. So you're starting to feel like that. You're starting to pull in beautiful pieces that feel like Everlane. Then you go to 1950s France. What does that mean, right? Like the south of France. Think striped umbrellas. Think beautiful bathing suits. Think rocky beaches. Think beautiful Art Deco buildings. What does that mean for you? When you start thinking about that brand statement, like what I said with Somersault, my brand statement was startup sexy means standing in the sunshine. So startup sexy meets standing in the sunshine. What does that mean? So I started pulling things from other startups that I valued and I looked up to, that startup sexy look and feel. And then what does standing in the sunshine feel like? Think of bare feet in the sand. Think about salt water in your hair. Think about that sun-kissed skin. And that's how we started creating our brand mood. So I always encourage you guys to think about what that big statement is visually for where you want to go. The next piece is start looking for those pieces. So look to Instagram, look to Pinterest, look to when you're walking on the street, take a photo. Start collecting an arsenal of inspiration for all of those things. So what I love is once you kind of have that solid kind of brand look and feel mood statement, you'll start seeing things pop up almost everywhere. You'll go to the beach and you'll be like, oh my God, this really feels like my brand. You'll go to Target and pick up packaging and say, okay, this feels like what I want to do. So once you have that mood statement, it really allows you to kind of hyper-focus and begin seeing your brand everywhere. Can I sign into Pinterest? One of the most amazing tools, I think, when you're building a brand is Pinterest. and saved Instas and Instagram. And I do this more than you could imagine. But when you have that wonderful statement that says, okay, you know what? This is who I am. This is what I'm trying to be. You start collecting things that feel that way. And that's when you start seeing themes. You might not know your brand colors yet. You might not know your brand typography yet. But creating that brand statement and then that brand mood board is the first 2 steps in figuring out who you want to be visually. As we started pinning things for Somersault, I kept seeing the same colors pop up over and over and over again. Let me just be the first to confess, yellow is my least favorite color. And guess what? That's my brand color. Everything is yellow because it wasn't right for me. It was right for the brand. It felt like standing in the sunshine. And then we really wanted it to feel startup sexy. So we have these really blocky, strong fonts in the color black. So it's kind of merging those 2 things together. So you'll start seeing those themes. So I encourage you to use tools like Pinterest to kind of build folders and continue to mood board. You can mood board based on color. You can mood board based on that big statement. You can mood board based on typography. And then pay attention. You'll see those themes kind of bubble up to the surface, and then you can start building your brand from there.
We're going to give you a little time. Obviously, it's open here. If you guys are being asked to sign in, log in with your Google account.
Is it easier for you to see this or the notes?
I don't use notes.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Okay, so just leave it
I'll
like
just
that.
look at, yeah.
Okay.
Don't worry about it.
No problem.
Okay. So I know that wasn't much time to begin starting a mood board, but the first step is getting started. So we did that together today. Just kind of reiterating, once you have your brand and you've started creating the visuals around it, don't forget that you have multiple touch points with your customer. It's not just the gateway, which is maybe your website. You really want to think about the complete 360, which is, now it's so many things. We've listed maybe 4, but there's numerous platforms popping up every day. My rule of thumb is do a few and do them well, as opposed to trying to do everything. But don't forget the importance of communication with your customer or your audience. So really thinking about Facebook, Instagram, email, and all of the above. And then don't wait to communicate. The customers really want to feel part of your brand. They really want to feel like you're listening to them, you're hearing them. I'll give you an example this morning. Someone was commenting on one of our Instagram ads, and they said, this is really annoying. Why do you have a model that looks like a boy and you're not size inclusive? So it could have been very easy for me to get really annoyed because we try really hard to be as inclusive as we can, and there's a long way to go. No one is perfect. But I have a rule of thumb is be kind and disarm with kindness. And that is something that I focus on in every interaction. So I said, you know what? This is not coming from a place of criticism from this wonderful woman. It's really coming from a place of, hey, I want to be included in this conversation. So I said, you know what? Hey, this suit does really well for larger sizes, and it's extremely popular. And I hope you'll give us a try. And we think all women are beautiful, whether you're a size 0 or a size 22, or anywhere on any spectrum, we think you're gorgeous. And she wrote back again a little bit angry and said, yes, but you only go up to size 14. And I said, yes, and I'm so sorry about that, but we're 11 months old, and we're so excited to be more size inclusive in the future. And that's what I'm working towards. So we don't pretend to be all things right away, but we know that we want to get there and we want to continue to be inclusive. And she wrote back, said, I'm so excited to see what you do. So it went from, I am really annoyed with you, to, okay, I'm so excited to follow the journey and can't wait, and I'm following you and hoping that you execute on this vision. And so it's okay to be vulnerable in that moment, and people feel part of your brand, even if they cannot be a customer at that very given moment. So that was a learning experience for me, as well as how can we continue to be kind to one another and grow a brand that lifts people up as opposed to tears people down. And we see that so often on social media. And it's again going back to just being really who you are and being authentic to that voice. And sometimes you make mistakes and sometimes you are spot on, but you continuously have to, like Lisa said, go there. So, is that it? Yep, that's it. Thank you, guys.